consistency can lead to routine. Routine dulls the mind, and we have to be vigilant about not allowing it to dull the mind.
Hello and welcome back to Change and the Market, your weekly look at the changing real estate market. I'm your host, Brian, joined as always by the other host, Mr. Chris Masiello, our resident real estate expert.
Hey, Brian, good to be with you. Good to be with everybody in our community.
We're going to have a little bit of a shorter episode today, so we're just going to get right into it and knock it out. Chris, how has the market changed? What are we seeing? Where are things going?
So, last week we talked about the fact that the market's, I think, moving into a more consistent cycle because of the inventory. And of course, like, that hasn't changed. I think we're moving more firmly into that environment of greater consistency, smaller number of closed transactions because of the constriction of the inventory. However, sales prices are continuing to move up. And when you get a more kind of normalized environment like what we're seeing, you're going to get, your seasonality will continue to be a little more pronounced. So, like in the last couple of days, Monday and Tuesday, these are just internal numbers. We booked 70 new purchase and sales agreements, and we took in about 30 new listings. And that's the listings are a little bit light, but that activity, I think, is showing that we are moving into kind of a spring summer market. It has really kind of kicked off. Typically, there's like a spring market and there's a summer market. I think it's kind of just like merging in together now. Because the market directly reacts to the inventory, and generally, if I take a look at our backlog of sales that are due to close, we've got about 650 transactions in the whole footprint. That's a little light, but not too light, So I think we're moving into that more consistency. And I think the other thing, though, if I'm a seller right now, there's still a premium in the market. Interest rates are going down, inflation is going down, and interest rates and inflation will track with each other. That will increase affordability, and then there will continue to be a premium in the market. So all in all, predictable, which feels kind of good to say. And because then you can kind of plan around it.
Yeah, it definitely mirrors what we were talking about last week with kind of entering a new normal and finding some consistency in the market. And we were going to talk about in our second segment here is how you can kind of capitalize on that. So what is your advice for people today?
On one hand, you talk about consistency, right? And in every circumstance has a strength and a weakness to it. So consistency, it has its strength because it allows you to plan and not have to work in frenetic or chaotic energy. The downside to consistency, though, is that consistency can lead to routine. Routine dulls the mind. So we always have to be a little aware when we're moving into consistency and routine that malaise doesn't set in. That kind of puts us in a kind of I guess dull would be a better way to say it, not really sharp mindset. And then, because when we fall into that, then we lose sight of what opportunities might come about. And I think, as we're talking about, the housing market, but this would be true in life, we have to have routines, we have to have consistency. At the same time, that we can't have them to the extent that we become unaware of what's going on around us. So that's just kind of how it kind of hit me this morning.
Yeah, so it really does kind of, and it's interesting because when we talked about, finding opportunity in routine and consistency, I was thinking that it does clash a little bit, not clash, but it just runs a little bit contrary to stuff that we've talked about previously, which is finding opportunity in change and in newness. And so I think it is interesting trying to find that balance between using routine to plan and finding that opportunity in the newness, in the change. And I think what we've talked about recently, at least from my perspective, obviously, without having your knowledge, is that, like you said, I think the key element here is that you can plan with the routine and consistency that we have, but then still be looking for those opportunities in the change. Is that kind of what your advice is?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because while you're in routine and consistency, you have to scan for the opportunity. I think that's what happens, right? Like I said, routine dulls the mind, and we have to be vigilant about not allowing it to dull the mind and scan for the opportunities, right? So if you were to take it like in a real estate sense, if I'm a seller right now, now there's going to be a premium in the market. We're moving into the faster time of year. And, inventory is somewhere around 50-60% of what it was last year. That's the opportunity.
Fantastic. Awesome. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Change in the Market. As we said, a little bit shorter, but we had some nice, succinct advice for you this week. As always, you can do us a favor by just following, liking, subscribing, whatever platform you're watching or listening to this show. And then make sure you join us back here next week for another brand new episode of Change in the Market.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, folks. Take care. Have a good week.